Thursday, March 23rd. Motion to open the meeting.
So move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We have minutes from February 9. Let's take a quick minute to review that.
Motion to accept.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
No meeting mail, no appointments.
None?
No. So now we start off with course opening and course condition.
Well, we are scheduled to open tomorrow, and with the exception, we're rough around the edges in a few spots because of the work we've done on the second hole and down by the 8th hole. But other than that, we're ready to open, depending on how much we get. What we get rain-wise. We've cut greens and tees once this week. We made our first growth regulator application to keep the post seed heads down. Had to spend quite a bit of time cleaning up the backside of the golf course due to goose droppings and what have you. Although we were able to get that before they got wet, so we're clean through greens, tees, and fairways out on the back. We'll be putting tee blocks out and setting up some ropes. The one thing I will mention is that because of the cart path work on the second hole, I'd like to keep the carts on the path for the second hole, just so they're not driving over top of the on and off over top of where the excavator is cut through. And there is some stone there from the base being put down that would be dragged out onto the rough and in the fairways. We're going to try to get back and clean some of that up, but our focus this week has been getting the course ready, so we didn't do too much of that
So
as far as
cart
the edges.
path only on 2.
Just on 2, yeah. From the bridge all the way up to where you play the third hole or get on the third tee, and then we do have the dips on the 7th and 9th have been prepped for asphalt. Although there's probably a 4 or 5-inch lip there, so we're going to have to direct carts around those particular spots, because that would jar somebody's fairly well if they went over that and didn't realize. I mean, you can see it, but sometimes people aren't paying attention.
I have some of those standing signs from last year that we used at the grill. If you want to swing by and pick up a couple and put them in front of them so that people...
Yeah, I'm going to pull back about 5 or 6 feet off of that and rope off across the cart path, so they have, so they can see it in ample time and can spread out as opposed to everybody going in one direction. But if that doesn't seem to work, we come down and grab those and see how that will work out. Other than that, things are in fairly good shape. We had our coldest weather in March so far, which turned things a little bit brown, but that's okay. And we were able to get out and drag in the top dressing that we had put in over the winter. So we're in pretty good shape to get started. We'll see what how the weather treats us, and I think tomorrow should be a relatively decent day. Saturday is going to be cold and wet, but then we'll get some sun on Sunday and see how things go.
So is the target date Sunday? Is that what it is?
No, target date's tomorrow.
Tomorrow?
Yeah.
Where are we on the repair of the sod on number 2?
Excuse me?
The sod on number 2?
Sod on number 2, the bunker, you mean?
Yes.
That is, they're not cutting sod in ample quantity yet for shipping to complete that project. You can go down there and get small orders. I talked with the sod folks at the beginning of the week, and they hope to be cutting in large orders possibly by the end of next week.
Nice.
We have, the bunker's been shaped. We have had loom put out there. We're trying to work around this, the wet weather. It seems to be raining every 3 or so days, and once things dry out and we're ready to work on it, then it gets wet again. So, but we're going to do some final grading with the Sand Pro. We have some hand grading to do along the edges, and then we'll be ready for sod. We're going to install the sod first. We'll probably leave the area adjacent to the cart path undone until the DPW comes through and puts the asphalt down. Then that way we can bring the sod up to the top of the berm that's going to be put in place there, and we won't have any dips or any.
So we have the whole area roped off?
Well, that'll be roped off. I haven't roped it off yet, but we'll be roping off tomorrow and putting out the directional signs and other things tomorrow. So, but that'll be area to be roped off. I mean, I'd hope to be able to come across some ball pickers for people to be able to fish their balls out of the. If it does go in there, as opposed to having to walk through it. I mean, it won't. I mean, it won't really hurt too much. They walk through it, except it's going to be, it'll be muddy for them, and they'll leave some footprints and get some dirty shoes.
Are we still scheduled to prep before the bridge on 2?
Before the bridge on 2, well, we don't have the. We have a little bit of a shortage of base material, and we have to wait until the crusher arrives and can crush up some of the material that's been stockpiled in order to have the base for them to continue the work. Dan and I have to look at the access to that portion of the golf course for his equipment and for his trucks and whatnot, and see how we're going to accomplish that, because as it is now, with the way the existing cart path turns and the immediate slope off the left edge of the cart path, the asphalt trucks won't be able to make those turns. And if they get on that slope, it'll be relatively easy for that truck to tip over one way, to the left-hand side. So he and I are going to have to look at that and see if there's a means by which we can cut through the woods and create a pathway that would be better accessed for the trucks. I mean, I'm pretty sure we can do that. The only thing we have to be aware of is there is a drain pipe that goes through that portion of the woods that drains that little retention area on the left side of the first hole. But we can, we'll probably bridge over top of that and shouldn't have any problem with that. But again, it's just a question of, he and I looking at that and he determining where best for his vehicles to travel. Probably about, I'd say 150 yards maybe of, maybe not that long of space there that needs to be basically going straight as opposed to trying to follow the curves of the cart path.
All the down trees are out of the way?
Well, the trees that were problematic up and around by the T itself, where the new cart path is going to go, yes, those are down and out of the way. We have, of course, the stumps are still there, but those would be removed once when the base material for the cart path was put in. There may be a few trees that we may have to remove in order to make that access route for the trucks, but that's not a difficult thing for us to do. I mean, basically what we'll do is drop them, and the excavator can pick them up in pieces and they can be hauled away. So that wouldn't entail any additional work by anyone else. At least I can't think of that at this point. So all the other tree, and we've moved. We have a little bit of oak left down on the ninth by the ninth tee. That needs to be picked up, but we've picked up the pine bolts and have put them in a position. We just basically stockpile them there in waiting for when we do actually do the cart path work down there, because those can be picked up and hauled away, and we'll probably end up going over to the yard and going through a tub grinder as opposed to us, hauling them up to the top of the hill and just stockpiling pine at the top of the end of the driving range. But other than that, the rest of it's been cleaned up. I mean, like I said, the stumps are still there because.
And the path is accessible.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's wet down there because of the rain, but the path is accessible, and again, you know, you have to go slow. I mean, we really didn't have a frost or a hard freeze, but, you know, with the continued root presence and some freezing and thawing, the roots did push up into the cart path a little bit more, so you can, you know, so you just have to go slow over them until we were able to get down there and pull them out.
Did we make access to that area on 8 from the?
Well, we spoke with we spoke with the landowner behind the 8th hole, and we're ready to be able to go down there. It's just that we haven't gone down there yet to make any access.
Because of the aggregate, right?
What's that?
You didn't have any of that.
Well, he doesn't have any of the. We don't have any of the base material. I mean, he had some, but he said we didn't have enough to finish. And I said, well, it's not going to make much sense for us to go down there and start tearing up a portion of this and then have to stop, and because it would just end up being a muddy mess. So we're going to leave it as it sits, and then for that access, I mean, it'll probably, you know, coming back through there, it'll probably take him, you know, about an hour and 15 minutes to clear what needs to be cleared. He and I have already been down there looking at what trees might need to come out and what not. And there's some small stuff right at the end where the opening breaks off of the neighbor's yard, which we'll have to widen up a little bit so the trucks can make the turn. And then what it'll do is dig that out, and we'll put some of that processed material there, similar to what we did behind the 5th green, so we have a firm base for the asphalt trucks to go on top of, because, you know, there's going to be some decent traffic down there, because you have to first you have to remove the existing asphalt and any topsoil that he feels necessary that's directly under the cart path, so we don't get that mushy cart path that's going to break up. And then once those trucks have been through, then you have to bring the trucks back with the base material and put the base material down, so you've got trucks going over this spot, you know, 2, 3, or 4 times. So it has to be, you know, coming in and out. The entrance has to be firm, but also it has to be firmed up along the cart path. And those trucks aren't, it's not a vehicle that you can turn and kind of stay completely on the cart path. You'll notice on the 6th hole that we had a little bit of damage to the left-hand side of the cart path between 6 and 1, just because the tires on the trucks are too wide to fit across the, you know, fit on the cart path. So I figured, well, I'd put up some stakes and talk to the guys and say, well, if we're going to have to go off, let's go off on the first tee side of the cart path as opposed to the 6th hole side. So, and they did a nice job with that. So.
When is word about the plants open up?
Dan and I talked yesterday. He said he said it could be the end of next week, could be the first week in April. He said it all depends on what what they see as far as demand. He said he believes there's one plant open in Avon, but that's, he said, you know, the price they're charging is exorbitant, and have to go all the way up there and come all the way back with it. It's cost prohibitive. So we're going to keep our fingers crossed that the local plants are ready to open here within a week to 2 weeks. And then we can get that in there and done. And
What about the stumps on 8? You're gonna pull them out before you start working?
yeah, he's going to have to, before, as he goes along and removes the existing cart path, when he comes to those stumps, then those will be taken out at that time.
You can't do that after blacktop because you'll break it.
Yeah, so he'll be taking those out as he goes along. And he does it's depending on how how firm things are and what have you. I mean, he likes to, Dan works and basically works his way out. So he'll start clearing the path, and then he'll bring some of the base material in so he doesn't have to go back over it, and then he'll clear more of the path, bring more of the base material, and be able to send a roller over top of it and compact it. There is a section there we may have to build up a little bit or we may have to look at creating some type of drainage that will take the water away from that cart path. There's water sitting on that cart path right now, just sitting right there.
Yeah.
And we need to try to drain it back into the woods. There is a drain in the woods to the right of the 8th tee that goes underground between the white tee and the black and blue tee, goes underneath the cart path and comes out the other side. So if we could, change the grade there somewhat and get some of that water to go backwards instead of forwards, and then that might help the problem with things being that wet. So, but it's, hopefully things, it stops raining and things dry out a little bit, because when it's dry down there, it's going to be easier to work around that and do that stuff.
Do you envision, assuming it's gonna be a wet spring, or the things that happen, do you envision getting beyond just getting a base coat in this spring?
That would depend on how doing that work would conflict with our schedule, but it would also depend on how the timing of that work would conflict with their schedule.
Right, so.
And I at this time, I can't really say, no, we won't have a problem with that, because I'm not aware of what they're going to have on the table.
The worst case is we keep plugging away, and we'll end up with a base coat, hopefully, in place with the drains situations resolved, and maybe in the fall sometime be in a position to finish it.
Yeah, I would think. Again, if it dries out quicker and schedules permit, then that might, it might be a little bit quicker. The only problem is you have depending on when you're trying to get work done, you only, at best, you have a 2 hour to 3 hour window at best before you have golfers coming around to play that particular hole. Unless, there are certain circumstances where you could start people on the back if the tee sheet and the schedule permitted, which would give you more time.
So that means you and Dana working very closely on
Yeah, I mean,
getting a sense of
yeah.
what's the best thing for you to get something accomplished.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have to go down there, look at it, say, okay, well, if we think we can get from point A to point B within this amount of time, and everybody's available, we'll try to do that on this day.
We
And
even
then-
discussed
Yeah.
starting on 10 and spinning through 6, and then finish on 7, 8, finish on 7, 8, 9, those being the final holes, so you possibly could get 3 hours a head start on it.
Yeah.
Or again, we also discussed if it required, maybe we did a late start on a Monday, and we got all that stuff squared away, and then we still started on the back, so then by the time we came around, it's done.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, it just has to be coordinated, available time and what the tee sheet looks like and what other things, might be going on at that same time, so.
Should we consider shortening the tee times availability from 7 days down to 5 or 4? So especially now you don't want to get in a situation where you got a full tee sheet and all of a sudden the weather breaks or the Dan's available.
Well, I think you'd have to plan that way in advance, and I don't really know, to be quite honest with you,
what is schedule?
I would rather, if push came to shove, instead of limiting us so much revenue-wise, I would rather, I hate to say it, but put up with what we have until the fall, when we're less busy, and then just get in there and rip the whole damn thing to pieces
Well, we can talk to Dan too and
Yeah.
see what he anticipates how long the project's gonna be. And if we can enable it to do it the way we just discussed, we'll squeeze it in. If not, we'll push it off to the fall.
Yeah.
So we basically may just leave 8 the way it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's passable, again, I mean, it's like your excise tax dollars that don't go to work on the roads. I mean, some of them are passable, but you have to, you just have to be careful. And,
Can we patch the ruts that are already there?
well,
You've done it?
I could try to patch some of the holes, but the problem is that the worst parts of the cart path are where the roots are sticking
Right.
up.
Right.
And the only way those come out is by pulling that stump out, and some of those roots go almost all the way across the
Yeah.
cart path, so we're gonna be pulling, you start ripping the stumps up, and you're gonna be leaving some pretty big holes. Even though most of them are pine, they're surface rooting trees, you're gonna still have some big holes to fill.
How far back are you gonna rip to the,
Well, you're coming around the corner there by the forward tee on the right-hand side. There's a couple stumps right there, and then all along the right-hand side of that cart path up towards and behind the 9th tee, there are stumps within 2 to 3 feet
Yeah.
of the edge of the cart path, which have heaved the path significantly. So
so
those
where
are.
would you start on the 8th tee by all the way to the black tee?
I mean, if it were me, I would probably start at the 8th tee end and work my way out, because I wouldn't have to go over it twice. If I started at 9, then I'd not only be, going in to do the work, then I'd have to come out. If I started 8 and work my way out, similar to the way we did the second and third holes, where we started at the 3rd tee and worked our way back all the way back to the bridge on the second hole. And people get out there and they'll be a little bit shocked because, along the edge of the cart path and stuff, it looks a little bit rough. That's why we're going to ask them to stay on the cart path. But once the asphalt's down, we clean up the edges. It'll look pretty good. We did take the cart path and try to push it to the left a little bit more, so we could get a little bit more of a buffer of rough between the cart path and the fairway. It points on that second hole. The portion of rough that you have is about 1.5 feet wide, so we kind of pushed the cart path to the left a little bit, and then as we approached the green, we pushed it out to the left a little as well. So, all in all, I'm happy with it. I think it'll be a significant improvement over the dips and problems that we had with the previous path on that hole. So.
Thank you.
Ready to move on?
I guess.
So then we have 2023 rate discount for veterans, and I know we'd mentioned it briefly once before as well, and I think that's Selectman Gaspar was asking about that.
Yes, that was brought up at the selectmen's meeting. Let me get my date right. 2 weeks ago. What's today? Today's the 23rd, 22nd, 21st, 14th. Tuesday the 14th. He had asked that the golf committee consider a rate for veterans. Didn't give any specifics, but asked that they consider it.
Well, they did two things. They vote to approve what was submitted,
Yes,
and they voted for us to consider
yes.
Veterans discount.
Yeah, so the rates that were submitted were approved, and the request was put out to consider a rate for veterans.
Just to clarify too, the resident weekday will be 37, not 40, because I had initially submitted it as 40, and then we voted to submit it as 37, and then when I submitted it, I only changed the weekend one and not the weekday, so that will be 37 as well. And as we've stated in the past, when the selectmen approve rates, you could charge up to that rate. You have the overall.
So the weekday 18
The weekday
resident
resident will be
is actually
37, yes. Just remember I mentioned 5 and then we brought it back.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I almost asked about that when I typed this up. That actually caught my eye. And
I was typing them in the system and Isaac was changing the web and we came across it and I was like, wow, typo. So that is online and in the system accurately.
So we're contemplating a discounted rate on golf. I know we mentioned the potential like a free cart if you're a veteran. Do we have any ideas of what about?
Why, no.
I don't know if anybody had any preferences or,
Well, I mean, I guess logically, I would think that the resident, no discount should be greater than the resident, but if it's a resident veteran, then if you want to make it lower than that, then
I
It's
think
up to
I
you.
was the one that brought that up.
Yes.
on the veterans. And I don't think it should probably be the same thing as a regular resident, instead of,
37 weekdays.
So there'll be no,
And weekends.
no discount for a resident veteran
it would
it'd
be the
just be,
same.
right, there'll be a resident rate.
and all other veterans.
Because you got veterans that are, 40 years old or so. that
Now,
don't-
I just
wouldn't
have a
fit into
question.
the seniors.
Do veterans have like identification stating that they're vets?
Like when I go to a restaurant or something like that, I just show them my veterans card.
Perfect.
And I get either, some places 10, some places 15.
You have it on your license.
Yeah, that's perfect.
I
That's all
have
we
it on
need.
my
You have it
license.
on your license,
It says veteran.
any proof of that you're a veteran.
You go Lowe's or them like this, you just show them your driver's license and they'll give you the 10%.
Yeah.
So then I guess your decision is, do you want the veterans rate to be equal to the resident rate, or should it be greater than? Or if you want it the same, that's fine, I'm just
I
saying.
don't know if you're gonna get many veterans with
Well, there are quite a few veterans,
Yeah, right.
just in the Acushnet, I don't know how many veterans are sitting here at the table.
that. I don't know how many.
It's gonna be pretty, you got all of New Bedford, you got the whole area.
Yeah, anybody and everybody that comes through, that's a vet.
Well, in my opinion, but it's humble, I'm a veteran, so. I think it's fair to give them as residents. I mean,
Yeah, same thing
Put
as a
up-
resident. as a
They
resident.
put up their lives on the line
Yeah.
and to protect us is the only thing we can do for them.
Mm-hmm. We'll know after 1 year where it sits.
I was gonna say, if possible, can you make that like an item, so to speak, in the point of sale system?
Sure.
So when you ring them in as that, it might be the resident rate, but you bring it in as.
I could make a veteran's rate at the same rate of the resident.
That way we can just kind of track it and see did we get a lot of play, just for
Mhm.
information,
Do we need a motion for that?
We
I
did.
think we do.
I guess
Yes.
I'll make the motion that we accept the veterans, same discount as a resident, Acushnet resident.
Second.
Done.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. That's good.
While we're on the subject, the town administrator asked whether we would consider a discount for town residents,
Employees.
employees. I'm sorry, town employees.
All right, well, not all town employees are town residents.
No, all town employees.
Oh, the employees at the golf course, they already get a discount. They get the rights of place for many for rounds, right?
I think he's probably thinking other departments, right? Town hall employees, police, fire, council on aging.
Yeah. Consider something like $5 off or
Or give them the walk-in rate. Give them the free cart. Town employees,
That would
that's an easy discount.
weekday, weekends.
Yeah.
What's the walking rate?
It's-
18 walking?
Yeah, you're looking at, it's roughly 5 or 6
53.
bucks on the weekday, and on the weekend it'll be about $19, $20.
You mean the Make them pay 53
Pay the walking fee rather than.
and give them a free
And
car?
give them a car.
So what is the car worth now?
On the weekday, you're 53 walking versus 60 riding, I think. Is that weekday
So
walking?
Yeah,
Uh,
so it's 12
I'm
on
sorry, 48 walking
48 walking,
and 60 to ride,
60 to ride, so it's $12.
$12.
So that brings it down to what?
There'll be $48 to
48.
ride.
Right.
I think that's fair. What do you think?
Yeah, because it says, see the 18-hole walking rate, they're just giving the car at that rate.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in that way, at least we're still getting the revenue for the golf round, and then the perk of being a town employees, you get a free card, which is a little bit of gas, whatever, but I think that'd be fair.
I agree.
So that'll be a motion to allow town employees to pay the walking rate and have a car if they so choose.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Town
Yeah,
meeting,
one more.
town meeting articles.
Yeah, that's coming up.
Final day for submission is tomorrow, I do believe. We should use, we still have probably 250,000 left in our approved spending. We should just do we submit anything else now or forego until the fall?
I think,
So that means we won't have an article.
Yeah, we're basically running out of time
To do it.
to do things.
I don't think at this point with that much remaining in the current article, it'll probably get us through, or at least some of the things we had on the horizon, probably enough to fund that, right? And then think of the timing of when we would do something. I was thinking, this is presuming that there is a fall town meeting, right? I guess the thing about the timing of these.
Well, certainly you don't have time to put an article together for tomorrow. So you don't have no other choice other than
Or we do-
fall.
we could submit the same catch-all thing.
I mean, think about the article, which is a good thing in a way, right? We're asking for permission to spend our own money, so to speak.
Mhm.
So if we did put something in, whether it's there if we need it for the time, especially say if there weren't to be a fall town meeting for whatever reason, versus the other side of that, if we do it and didn't need it, it's just gonna revert back to us anyway. And then if we do an article, and there's no town meeting, then at least the funding is there through the whole next year, a year from now, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So that would be the potential for doing it, except that we probably don't have a list today of the exact things that it would be spent on, but anytime we go to spend it, we need to go before the selectmen anyway. We know that we're going to add.
Were we reviewing any other car paths that needed to be done, or parking lot, or?
I guess the probability of having a fall town meeting is pretty
Yeah,
high
that's
right
the
now.
question whether you're gonna have one or not.
So that we are gonna have it. Because you have some contractor that needs to be approved, and those kind of things, so. I would suggest we just kind of hold off until, maybe start to put that list of things, car paths that we're talking about doing.
Because, I mean, we do have a decent balance right now, there's always if something truly unforeseen happened with it, that's why we put that reserve in the operating budget, like for
Right.
next year, in case something did happen throughout the fiscal year next year.
Right, and based on the current FY '24 budget, we also have some money in there.
Yeah, so I think that makes sense, and we just kind of wait, see, identify what the next things would be that we would do with that anyway. And then if there's a fall town meeting, we'll just ask them. And by that point in time, this year will be closed out too.
Mhm.
So then we'll know and say,
Right.
hey,
You made this much.
we made X, let's take, just making this up today, but let's take half of X that we made and put it back into capital in the fall, so. I think that makes sense, especially since we have funding to do anything we want to do right now anyway.
Can we ask Steve and Dana to get together and kind of put their heads together and come up with a list?
I got plenty of things on the list.
Can have Dana get together and put his
Sure.
list together?
Small list.
Smallest.
All right, that's
Don't
all.
waste your pencil.
All right, so the next thing on our list is the 24 amended budget.
In your,
Oh, changed.
we set an operating budget of 1914723, and it's come to attention that there are some issues with salaries. And there's discussion around town and the whole thing about some situation with the union. And it's become to my attention that the list of people that are in that union being addressed. One person that doesn't in that defined individual position is the assistant superintendent.
He's not in there from the standpoint of a signed card, but his position
But he
is
isn't.
being considered in that, and the signed card could be done afterwards without any significant
The
differentiation.
definition is he is not in the pool of individuals.
Whose definition was that?
As received from the state of Massachusetts, that has defined specifically the individuals that are in the pool, if you will.
I don't
Not-
believe that that's accurate.
Well, then,
I can tell you this way, in what's being considered, that position is in the pool
Mhm.
for all the positions that are being considered,
It's not.
from my knowledge.
it's not.
I mean,
Not as far as we've been instructed.
See how it plays out.
So along that line, assuming, but my understanding is correct, and that your understanding is not correct, I'm suggesting that position we can vote to increase or recommend a salary increase for that position. And what I'd like to do is submit an amended version of the FY '24 that will increase the assistant superintendent salary from 59.3 to 61.7, or 3.9, and to reduce the capital projects that we had before by that amount of $2,700.
I think it's a good idea.
Pardon?
I said I think it's a great idea.
well, I'm
That's
just,
fine.
I'm not against the idea, I'm just saying that you're going to have a decision to make down the road.
Right.
When something is ratified and he's included on that, that's going to influence the means by which he gets compensated through the ratified document, because you changed the pay rate.
Right.
I'll
That's fine.
I mean, it's fine with me, I'm just saying, you know.
I'm
Just-
He's
I'll
getting
make-
he's getting bumped on insurance
I'll-
anyways. He can use every dollar he can get.
Hey,
I'm
all of us
just
are getting
putting
bumped on
it in-
insurance and everything,
We'll go.
and,
I made the motion to approve.
No, he's going from what?
58,
From 50,
59.
9
93
three.
to up to 61, 7?
7,
Yep.
which is the equivalent of the last two
Yeah,
COLA.
COLA raises, yeah.
That current COLA rate, or phrase that again?
The equivalent of what would have been
equivalent
a
of the
past
last two
COLA
COLA.
increase. 2.
Do we ever have
No.
anything larger than a 1.5% increase?
I think we did get a 2.
Once, two, but that's
Yeah.
because they
Yeah.
skipped a year. I
Probably.
had to go back. I'm just saying, I didn't know, I mean, because I thought the COLA was higher than that, that's why I asked. I don't know.
I don't
mean,
think I've
it's-
seen the higher.
You go to the state, you try to find information from the state, and they say the cost of living increased 6.5% in the state of Massachusetts. And everybody, I mean, you got people, people jockeying for position in raises in the city of New Bedford that were going up 7, 10 to 12%.
It's got it here already,
So,
6170.
Right. So Manny made a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Bob. All in favor?
Yes.
Second.
Yeah, Bob did.
so that's fiscal 2024, so that goes in effect July 1st.
It goes in effect if in fact
The budget's approved.
budget is approved and the town votes.
July
Okay.
1.
So, but the date would be July 1. Okay.
Yes. So we have fairway mower payment options. Is that the one that's being delivered soon? Is that the one?
Well, you have two choices. You have, well, actually three. You have to pay it directly, you have a 5-year dollar buyout option, or you have a 3-year dollar buyout option. So however you choose to proceed. Now, of course, once you choose a particular direction, then we have to inform the folks at Turf Products, so then they can, I mean, the machine's sitting down there ready to be delivered. They're not going to deliver it until they know, number one, whether you're going to write them a check in 10 to 15 days, or number two, that we have to contact PNC, which is the financing arm, to get the information and get the ball rolling on a 5-year or 3-year dollar buyout
What
lease.
was, can you just refresh my memory, to buy it outright, what's the price?
The price is
69 something.
69,000.
Okay.
Close to 70,000.
Yeah, I knew it was 60 something.
Did I put it? I thought
We
I
have a
put
right
it
to
down
refuse
here.
it.
Yeah, 69.6.
Do we have a right to refuse that?
Well,
Cancel it?
Man, you can refuse anything you want.
You can cancel it.
Steve, at the presentations you made to the finance committee, you suggest that you're not in favor of leasing because you'd rather purchase if we could do that.
My thought of that is that you lose money through the financing process.
But you also say that there are on the mowing equipment, you like to turn these in after 3 years or 5 years, so we don't have to spend the money in the maintenance of them.
Yeah. So the plan in the in
Theory.
in any of the equipment circumstances in the past, most people had focused on a 5-year program. Now, some people looking at 3s and some people looking at 4s. The idea is to, and the gist of that is to get the best useful life out of the machine prior to having to make significant investments in it, in parts and repair.
And the easiest way was to be negotiate a situation instead of a $1 buyout. It just, you lease it for so long and then you turn it back.
Yeah, there are some of those. I'm not that familiar with that, but I think you could probably do the same thing on
Because
the.
otherwise we end up with them in a great junkyard.
Junkyard.
Yeah, well, that's either you end up with it and then you try to trade it in. I mean, like something like a tractor or something that's going to last you 10 years, and obviously you're not gonna be trading it in.
Right, you do the $1
Yeah,
buyout.
You do the dollar buyout. Yeah, they have I mean, I would tell them that it wouldn't be a $1 buyout lease, and that would change, I'm sure that would change the terms. So,
Can we do a 3-year and a 5-year, $1 buyout, 3-year, 5-out with a trade-in?
What's what they call it? They call it a fair market value lease.
yeah, FM, yeah,
Right, the FM.
fair market value.
Residual, and that's based on hours used, probably?
It's gonna be probably based on hours.
Or would they come down and just take a look?
Nah, I think they would base it on hours. I mean, the equipment, I'll be honest with you, equipment operators don't ever want to tell you this, but they know what the useful life of the machine is and the number of hours.
Why wouldn't they want to tell you?
Because they don't want to
to buy
discourage,
another one,
they
that's
want you to buy a new one. So.
We like to rebuild ones.
Well, I mean, you can do that too. I mean, the technology changes so quickly these days that, I mean, one of our
You can
biggest
save a
problems
lot of
right now
money by
is
rebuilding.
getting parts for our equipment because they don't make the bloody parts anymore because
Right.
they moved on to a different model.
And, well, we've
So-
gone through so many phases, right? I mean, we tried to extend, as the play declined, we were, trying to save as much money, so, I mean, those were all great decisions, so. Now we're in a different place.
Did we ever get the quote-unquote official approval for a 5-year lease? 'Cause wasn't there an issue with?
Yeah,
years ago?
Brian was stuck with
Remember
that.
We did get it.
I don't think- Should I-
You provided the wording.
Right,
And
but then
supposedly
somebody-
it's still,
Okay,
it's
fine.
still.
I just want to make sure that
in
if we said, oh, let's go this route, we're not going to run into the same thing with it. You don't technically have the approval to do a 5-year.
Supposedly we have.
Okay. Because if we're going to do, and my thought is, if we were to do the dollar buyout, which they never charge you the dollar, you've essentially bought it and you've paid interest. So if that's the route we were going to go, why wouldn't we just buy it and save the interest? But then if we're thinking of doing the fair market value lease, where it's certainly going to be a lower payment, but then they just take it away regardless, 3 years from now or 5 years from now. But then if that saves you money when the point in time when you want a new machine potentially anyway, well, that could be worth looking at. So, if
I can get them to churn the numbers on all of those. The only, my only, and it's not so much a concern sometimes, it's a fear that if you go with a fair market value lease and you turn it in and for some reason somebody says, well, we're not going to replace that right now. Well, then you basically shorted yourself. So if you're going to get on a program, this is the discussion I had with Alan Tino back in 2006 when we approached a 5-year program. And then once we got through that 5 years, we come up around 2011, and then we decided we're going to shy away from the 5-year program and we're not going to stick with it. So if we're going to look at that approach, then we just have to keep in mind that it behooves us to continue that rollover, because you are going to get the lower price, as you said, with the fair market value lease. And I can request all 3 or all 4. I mean, you can take a look at the 5-year dollar buyout, 5-year fair market value, 3-year dollar buyout, and 3-year fair market value.
If you do a 5-year, you're into the debts paid off.
Yeah.
So
So
now it's, do we want to get on a program of rotating?
I could ask them too if it's. I mean, who says they can't consider 4? I mean, 3 and 5.
Right, it doesn't have to be one or the other. There could be 1 year in the middle too. So.
Yeah.
Right, that's just I'm sure they have it all set up in their
yeah,
finance system
yeah.
anyway to just
Push
push
a
out the
button, yeah.
report for us.
Yeah, that's what they do. I think. I'm sure.
So is that what we're going to do? We're going to wait, get that information?
To me, if we're interested in the potential of the fair market value lease, then we should ask for that information. If we were going to enter a dollar buyout, well, why pay any interest at all and just
I think that'd be a
Yeah, buy
wise,
the thing.
wise thing to do.
get the
Well,
option?
Get all the information before we make a decision.
Or they gotta make a decision quick because the thing is ready to be delivered.
Well, let me
How would
put it.
they
I
get the
mean,
information
I'd
from?
like to have it tomorrow, but it's not going anywhere. And if it takes 3 or 4 days to get this information and get it back to you guys, and have you go over it, it's fine with me. I mean, I can start. I've still got 2 machines. I can start with those 2 machines. So.
Yeah, if you could just ask them, that'd be good.
Yeah, well, I'll get a whole, I mean, I should be able to get an answer tomorrow.
Yeah.
So like you said, I'm sure it's just putting numbers in the machine and, pushing the button, so. I'll find out,
Because right now we are.
the PNC contact.
We are actually getting some interest in the money we have in the bank. And Nick did a quick calculation that says that you're not gonna lose as much interest-wise, because you gain a lot of interest.
Yeah.
So we need to take a look at those numbers.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so the next item is staffing additions.
Well, we're sitting in a position, at least, you know, I've got, intent was to hire one part-time equipment operator, one full-time equipment operator, and 3 students, what I call students, I mean basically high school or college kids that work that period from June through the end of August. As we sit right now, we've been advertising for approximately a week, and the majority we've had 5 or 6 people come in and express an interest. All of them, with the exception of one, were retired folks interested in part-time work. I have one student position already filled, and so basically filled. I mean, obviously we have to go through the. I have one. Let me put this. I have one reserved. I spoke with someone today who was a good candidate, and we're going. And again, he's not available till June. And like I said, we had a couple people, 4 or 5 people express an interest in the part-time equipment operator position. So I hope to have that filled as well. So the full-time position, I don't know. If I don't get a significant interest in that position, then I'm going to be leaning towards a second part-time position for an equipment operator, and have to shift my current younger, more labor-intense, capable people into different duties to cover that which I had hoped would be covered by a newer full-time equipment operator. So, it's the same thing we basically go through every year. Whoever comes into our need, to fill our need, then we assess those particular candidates and see how it goes. I have had no one express an interest in full-time work yet. Put a caveat on that. So I'm pretty confident that we'll be full staffed. I really hadn't had anticipated bringing anyone back until mid-April. I've got some flexibility there. It all depends on what the weather's going to be like in the next week to 2 weeks and how things start to grow. If growth is slow, then I can wait a little bit. If growth starts to turn around, then I've got to step up, because we've got the spring is very important as far as getting particular spraying operations and fertility operations done in a timely fashion. So, but I'm hopeful that we've got a good base staff, and so far all of our all the employees that we had last year, with the exception of our high school or student folks, are returning. And there's a good chance that one who was incapable of working last year due to some personal issues will be back as well. So that'll be a
Conrad.
big difference. Yeah.
Nice.
So it could be fully staffed.
Yes. So I've got a couple applications. Once I get the application back from the student, I'll have 2 applications that they're the applications that I wanted to submit, and then
So nothing to submit on for the 28th? The next selectmen?
next Tuesday. No, it would be the selectmen meeting after that, probably.
So we'll just kind of communicate back and forth. So
Yeah.
I can get that on the agenda before it gets too full. How about you, Dana?
I had my hooks into a guy that was going to do a pro shop for 28 hours a week, and he just called yesterday and said that he's not doing it. So
He quit?
No, I didn't have him yet. He was leaving Crestwood, and he was gonna come and work for us. But he opted, he went to LeBaron instead. What are you gonna do?
Do you have any applications for the?
I haven't had any applications as of yet. Once we open this weekend, we'll start seeing some bodies coming through, I would think.
Because you should have some signs out there.
There's signs at the top of the street.
Yeah.
They're on top of the street, and nobody biting yet.
No. Still gloomy out. Wait till the sun starts.
Yeah,
shining.
like I said, I had 4 or 5 people respond to, to the signs that were out there. So,
Just
I think it'll
comment,
pick up.
they're tough signs to read when you're driving by.
Yeah.
Are you thinking or contemplating that hiring somebody to take care of the golf carts?
Yeah, oh, absolutely. I was actually, we were planning on doing them, wash them on Wednesday. I had just had the water turned on, but then the forecast was for 4 or 5 days of rain. It doesn't make sense to wash them and they go out this weekend. They're gonna be filled with mud, so we
They'd be
postponed
happy.
it
They will be able to feel the rain.
to,
The rain.
yeah, well, we're gonna do them, starting next week. Bring in the guys to start washing the carts, get those squared away. I'm gonna bring in some kids this season, move some of the kids that I have over to the grill, bring in some new guys, train them as bag boys, and then if I can find that spot for the shop, or a couple people for the shop, we're gonna put some people in the shop.
There's approximately half of the carts have been power washed when we started power washing them when we serviced them. So approximately half of them have been cleaned already. That was about 3 to 4 weeks ago because of the intermittent rains and stuff may have gotten them a little dirty. But they
Yeah,
were-
we're gonna
As soon as it
make a
rains,
regular
it's-
schedule out of
It
cleaning the
splashes,
carts, right?
yes.
Is that it for staff then, I think?
And just one other thing to mention there, that the pay scale ranges are going to be taken up at the next Board of Selectmen's meeting. They have been tabled at the 2 previous, but they're supposed to be on the agenda for the meeting of the 28th.
I guess they'd be able to don't be here at the next election, right?
Say what?
They're gonna be on the agenda not for the
Yeah,
next.
that's
Yeah.
what Steve said.
I have to go to a selectmen's meeting where I work on Tuesday, otherwise I would go, but I won't be home this Tuesday.
Yeah.
It's our budget time at work too, so.
Yeah, I think they just wanted some time to review the
Yeah.
past history of numbers of employees and where the rates have gone, and I think the advancement that has been made in the minimum wage was, it's probably gone without notice, and how long it's come since 2018. So
Yeah,
it's
and-
kind of shock value when they look at the numbers and they see the advancement. It looks like we're adding these massive amounts of monies or people, and it's the people are staying the same, and it's minimum wages increasing, and that's all it is. And when we sat down and looked at it, we discussed it. But looking at that, you're telling me that minimum wage went up 50%, and we're like, yeah, we're not adding anything to the table. You're just
No.
paying exactly for what we had and
put-
keeping up with
pushing to
minimum
get the
wage.
minimum wage up to 20, so.
I think as adults, it's unsustainable. As business owners, it's ridiculous. McDonald's is not a full-time job, a career.
Well,
I see on Facebook, they had advertised for golf employees, working for Steve, starting off at $20 plus
Yeah.
golf rights.
I looked on Indeed, and everything that Steve had, they were all accurate. They're right there.
Yeah, our range is within the range
It's hard for
of,
us to compete with private courses.
the range that we have proposed is similar to Indian Ridge and Andover, $15 to $18 an hour for entry level or starting positions. Concord, 16 to 19. Town of Stoughton, which is Cedar Hill Golf Course, 15 to 17. Brayburn and West Newton, 16 to 18. William Devine Public Golf Course in the city of Boston, 18 to 20. Union Golf Course in Stoneham, $16 and up. Kernwood in Salem, 17 to 20. Blue Hill in Canton, 16 to 20. Neshotic in Concord, 17 to 20. Thompson in North Reading, 16 to 23. Framingham, 15 to 22. Meadowbrook, 18 to 23. Thorny Lee, 15 to 18. Wedgewood Pines and Stowe, 16 to 1750 or 18. Sharon, 17 to 19. So we're, you know,
And then if that happens with what you just said, maybe it goes to 20.
and that, you know, and I tell you, the discussion in our industry, there's been a lot of discussion over the last 6 or 7 months in our industry about three things: increased pay for not only staff, but increased pay for assistants and other people in those positions. And the numbers that they're talking about are significant numbers. Within the next, I hope within the next month to couple weeks, the budget survey that the National Superintendent Association did back in the end of December will be coming out. They have to, it's across the country, so they have to compile all the data and crunch all the numbers and divide it up into northeast, south, and what have you. But I think that's going to tell the tale of significant increases. I mean, you're competing against people who can provide housing, summer housing if people want it, golf privileges, free meals, at least one a day. So
That's not
a
municipal.
lot of that
courses,
stuff is going to.
That's not a municipal course, that's for sure.
Well, you know, no, they're not. But that's what you're.
That's your
That's what you're
competition.
pulling.
Oh, yeah, so, yeah.
Your best guys will go for
And there
those.
are some. I mean, you know, you look at some of the the Cape courses who have some of those capabilities. You may see some of that as well.
All right. So the next thing we have is an RFP for course future direction. So we had talked a little bit at the last meeting, I believe it was, about another report that, I forget the name of the company, had done for Falmouth.
Mhm.
You know, looking at that, looking at his website, looking at some other stuff that they've done, while useful information, I personally didn't feel that was most appropriate for us because, you know, Falmouth, you know, owns the property, they outsource the operation. So I started thinking that of what we're really looking for as we approach paying off the bond especially is, you know, a future 3, 5, 10-year plan of where we can be, where we think we'll be, where we go. What's a better type of business plan development for us? So I started looking online, especially municipal courses.
Mhm.
So, you know, town of Yarmouth has 2 fairly successful municipal courses, town of Brewster with the captains, those are municipal courses. Turns out that they both use the National Golf Foundation every 5 to 7 years for a business plan update. So then I looked online at their reports, see the product that they got from the National Golf Foundation. And I think you guys got it in a link.
I read that.
We looked at it.
I read
To
it.
me, that was a much more appropriate report for what I
Mhm.
think we're looking for vision
Very
and
impressive.
potentially justifying if we need to make infrastructure upgrades, no matter whether it's anything from cart paths all the way up to some sort of,
Irrigation or
right,
anything
irrigation.
else.
Clubhouse, and when I use the term clubhouse, I mean anything other than the trail, which is 25
Mm-hmm.
years old. You know, it could be something the same size, maybe a little bit bigger, but I mean, what could that be? What would the golf industry in southeastern Massachusetts take to support it, et cetera? So I just really liked the reports that they were able to do for those 4 courses down the
Mhm.
Cape, and they've used them multiple times. So I called Mr. Singer, who's their senior consultant down in Florida. He said 27 years ago, when they were thinking about building a course here in Acushnet, he was the junior consultant at the time. He worked on the report that helped justify building the course. So he said that they would be very interested in doing the same type of analysis for us. Now, given the price, he did say it would be over $10,000. I spoke to, couldn't really compare it to what Brewster and Yarmouth paid because they have 2 courses each, so it was
Mhm.
twice the work. If you're familiar with it, the captains are kind of the same, right next to each other. In Yarmouth, it's 2 separate courses. One's 100 years old, one's was built in '88.
Right.
So anyway, it just took them more work to do those than what it would take for us. But he said it would more than likely be more than 10,000, so we need to do quotes. So then I went ahead and just took a template that I use for my own job, put it together for what I think we would be looking for, extracted it, what I thought we'd be looking for from the reports that they typically produce, and thought that it might be a good place. And even when we use this to solicit, it's not committing us to anything at that point in time anyway. It's, because it's over 10, we need to solicit quotes. I'm virtually positive National Golf Foundation will give us a quote. The town of Brewster and Yarmouth told me the other companies that do this, that in that one is, now it's called, it's Troon, it's a big company. At the time it wasn't Troon, it was a small company that Troon bought. And one
Through
of
the
the,
management company.
right, but they also have a, they also have a division that does this type of analysis. And there was one other, anyway, so we would send it out to them, see who responds, see what we get for pricing estimates, and think that we want to go forward. So I think it's worth at least taking the first step to send something like this out, see what we get back for a response, and go from there.
Go from there.
Yeah, because soliciting the quote isn't committing, and I'm making this up, and I'm sure it wouldn't people say the least one that came back was 50,000. Like, no, we're not going to invest 50,000 in this report.
Right.
No harm, no foul. We don't need to do it.
No.
But I think, especially if we want to see where we want to be, where we could be to keep this course going and keep it successful. If anything, it's just going to help validate what I already think in my head and what we probably all think. But again, it's the companies that do this for a living,
Right.
have access to data that we don't have, and just put it together for us. So I think it's a worthy next step. Got to make sure the dates I put in, I just made up dates for now just to get this draft template out there. But if we think we want to do this, I can update it and send it out and see what we get back.
You need a motion for that?
Maybe we need a motion that we go ahead and at least solicit the quotes.
I'll make a motion on that.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Motion and a second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Can we, can that be, that you're going to do that, be communicated with the town administrator and the selectmen? Because I think they were,
There's a guy with a gun.
they were wanting to know when it,
When it's gonna happen?
yeah,
Yeah.
the RFP was going to be done or what have you.
Yeah, I had sent this draft to one of the selectmen and the
Oh,
town administrator.
okay.
But now that we've made a motion, we're going forward with it, I will certainly, once I clean it up a little bit, when I send it out, I'll include all of us so we know the exact copy that went out and them on it as well.
It would be curious, if the National Golf Foundation did end up doing this, it would be very curious to take what they project now and compare it to what they projected 25, 27 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean, it would, just,
Right.
it'd be very, it'd be interesting to see how, what they
They'll
made.
project 32.
The only thing, the one thing if you read if you read through the document, the first thing they have in the document is their synopsis or summary.
Right.
And basically what the summary is a disclaimer on the entire document.
Of course, I mean, because no one.
Yeah.
Don't hold me to it.
Don't hold me to it. Yeah, it's basically, that's the, but,
Things do change.
Yeah.
yeah.
And then sometimes they don't, right? As they predicted.
Yeah, it doesn't go
First
the way
time,
they-
let's
Well,
X
again, the
this.
first time they did an analysis, it was under two assumptions. One, the whale was gonna close.
There you go.
For the casino, and one where it stays in business. Unfortunately, what we ended up was them in business.
Mhm. We still fared pretty well though, even with that scenario taking place.
The only big miss that the National Golf Foundation did at that time was that, having read the thing several times, was that they anticipated revenue over 100,000 for the driving range,
Yeah.
which was a lighted driving range.
Yeah,
It's just obviously not
obviously that didn't happen. All right, well,
Sounds
See
good.
where
We gotta promote it, that's all. There's one that closed up, we could pick up some business there.
right.
Yeah, that's what I was wondering, even though unless you know it, some people go and hit balls and don't play golf that often, right? So it's like a draw if you're driving by, but, hopefully if we can push a little more, maybe we'll grab some of the business that did used to go there.
We need a sign out there.
sign it.
Yes. On the top of the street, says
We
It
do.
driving
doesn't
range.
say
What's-
nothing about driving range.
Well, no, yeah, it does. When we're open, there's,
Yeah,
there's,
Yeah, once
yeah.
we
I don't recall it.
No, it'll be out there tomorrow morning.
Yeah, yep.
Maybe in bigger letters.
So operations update.
Just real quick, as we're just starting up, as like we discussed before, we'll be scheduling shifts for the kids to come in. Starting up, if not this weekend, starting next weekend, to get them in, clean up the range, get the balls out of the woods, what's left, clean the cots, set up the tables. We already set up the tent, that's ready to go. Haven't set up the food and beverage area, so I can get that up within a week. Just this past week with the installation of the tent, I had new toilets installed. We had to fix the pipes. We had several breakages underneath the trailer. We still need a repair on the hot water heater in the men's room. And as far as the shop and supplies, we're probably, I'd say, 90% with our goods in our shop ready to go. I have a few spots that I have to fill in with certain items, like mid-layer stuff. Food will be delivered next week, and as far as scheduling, we're already taking, our leagues are scheduled, we're already taking bookings for outings. All of our stuff for clinics and junior clinics and junior PGA, all that stuff is on the web and on Facebook, so that information is out there. I did take a moment to speak with the club car representative. He doesn't have a target date yet for our carts, but he will be getting back to me with that. I also inquired to him, as we may be entertaining, depending on the cost and where we're at financially and what we need to spend or don't need to spend, the idea of rolling the carts as a full fleet to get out of the situation we're in, where we have 3 different generations of carts where parts are an issue, and kind of get it tied under one roof. In that discussion with him, I also gave Ed a copy of the club car maintenance contract for us to review if we want to do that moving forward this year. I know we had some trials and tribulations with the volume of play and splitting our guys' responsibilities on the carts with a higher turnover of issues that need to be repaired as opposed to their work duties that need to be fulfilled on the course. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, the calculation came out to roughly $7,500 plus any parts that you needed to order. It was $95 per cart was the service agreement. That's on the last page. So we don't have to make that decision today, but I have the information. We can talk about it and see which direction we decide to go.
Also, the service contract is $95
Per cart.
per car per year.
For the year, yes, but then if they need cables or carburetors or fuel injection goes, you have to pay for those. Anything that's not warranted with whatever year that cart is, we would have to pay for those parts. If it's under warranty and covered under, say it's the brand new carts that we got, obviously it'll be covered under warranty and they'll fix it. But if it's a broken windshield, that's not gonna be covered.
So it's $95 per contract or
Per
year?
cart.
Per cart per year?
This is right on the back. Cost of Squire service contract, $95 per car for 2023. That's just the initial. $7,000.
So it's per year. So if you
For
get-
2023, 1 year, yep.
So if we do a 3-year lease.
Well, if you decide you want to do it this year, it's 7,000. If you want to do it next year, it's 7,000. You want to do it the year after, it's 7,000.
1,000 for 3
Well,
years.
that's gonna be a minimum, because
Minimum.
who knows,
Plus-
that
plus
might, it might
parts.
go up.
Plus
Plus
parts.
parts. that's
So do
correct,
they,
under
yes,
warranty.
so do they, when they say $95 per cart, is that?
That's your base.
That's your base, but what are they doing for the $95 per cart?
That's
Are
what
they doing,
transportation only.
Are they doing, annual service?
These, once
Change.
every 2 weeks, he'll come through, and if you have anything, he'll be there within 2 days, come in and turn them over.
Oh, so he'll check, so he's got a.
So it's no charge on call, like now, I think it's a minimum,
Yeah,
they charge you $100
charge
or
you
$200
for a
to
call.
come out for the
I'm
call.
not sure what it is.
There, if you have the service contract, you're not getting charged for those calls. And you're on a regular rotation. But anything that pops up, like we had one situation, we had a full shotgun, we had 14 down, and we had the shotgun the next day, and I really had to pull the hot button on him. I said, I have a firefighters event, full field, I cannot run this thing with less than the full fleet. And he sends his guys down and had them turned over and ready to go the next day. So, the good thing is they're located in Wareham, that's their home office, so if there's a tech available, they can pull them off a job and send them over. But that's worth reviewing. I'm not sure how many times we called them, we can count that out. And don't think it reached 7,000, but probably came close with all the parts and everything that we had to repair.
Well, the parts are a big expense. I believe they were here, if I'm not mistaken, 4 times.
So that's
And one
$1,000
time,
right there.
one time they had to come back because they didn't have the appropriate parts in stock to fix the machine.
Do we have some kind of a history on how much we spent on repairs in the
Yeah,
last couple of years?
we have that.
I
I
mean,
think
is
when we initially opened the course, back when me and Steve started, we used to do the contract with them, and it was $4,000. And then we had a discussion with Steve taking it over, with Steve making the statement, listen, I can do it, but the course takes priority, and I get to him when I get to him, when I can get him in. And that worked quite well with the previous.
The previous carts, they seem to be
But these
better
carts-
carts than the newer ones.
The more plastic they put on these carts, the more things that tend to let go, so. And I asked them if they were changing anything with regards to the engine, the mechanisms and all that, and although the mechanics said they were leaning towards that last year, they scrapped that idea and they're sticking with the same engine. But he also said that his other courses in the area are not having a similar pattern of turnover on repairs, which I can't imagine that to be true, because we're not doing anything different to the older carts than we are to the newer carts. And they still need more repairs than the older carts. So, logic stands that my belief is it's the cart. In our history, it's the cart, because we can draw upon our experience that we've had. But with their tech guy, he pulls them in. Of course, they give you the sales pitch. The carts are great. Things are running smooth.
So do you need to have more conversation with other customers of theirs?
What I discussed with him was, well, then maybe if we do decide to do this for a year, you guys can take very close notes on what it is, in fact, that we're fixing. And then if there's a way that we can address that, we can review it.
Have you looked at other suppliers of golf carts?
I haven't looked at other suppliers. We've used Club Cars since we've been in existence. The only one that I've seen routinely come through and speak to us was Yamaha. And I think we didn't use them because they were a little bit pricier.
Easy
Then-
Go?
I'm not sure Easy Go, but the Yamaha guy came through several times, and I think we never went with him because they were a pricier car.
Pricier car that doesn't break down.
I don't know.
But the Yamaha electric carts are nice.
And that was part of the discussion too, is on possibly a rollover of carts. Give us the idea of what the cost would be in comparison to a gas fleet versus an electric fleet. And the electric fleet, I think, comes with the Visage systems where you can control where they go, control the speed, and all that other stuff. So that's gonna be part of the estimate.
They're gonna provide you?
Which it has some great features. So if you're closing, you can send the message to the cart. We're closing in 25 minutes.
It
Finish your home,
also
bring it
says
in.
you're 30 minutes behind.
Says
Yeah.
you're behind, and you guys have played in them. You can't go. You can program where they go, and you don't have to necessarily stop them. But he said probably what works better than that is you just have them slow down to like 1 mile an hour, and that allows them to turn out of it and get back in the area where it picks up and goes.
So
So
again,
But those are the electric cars, right?
right,
yes,
you need GPS tracking for that?
the Visage or Visage or whatever they pronounce it for their that unit, their rep comes out and does that, and it specifically ties to the usage with the car. You can't use it for, Steve's, if he had electric mowers or whatever, you know what I mean?
Yeah, see,
It doesn't correlate
Yeah.
to other technologies.
No, they'll go out and they'll GPS the course depending on where you would like people to go and where
Mhm.
you'd like them not to go, and that'll be
That's their
communicated.
program.
That'll be communicated to the carts, but it's specific to theirs. Like I can do it. I mean, now you can. They have GPS sprayers where you go out and you map fairways, greens, tees, and so on, and then the sprayer comes on and off by itself, and all you do is drive it. But that's specific to that unit,
Proprietary.
just like those are proprietary towards the carts, so there's no intermingling between the two.
Maybe someday there'll be a smart system that allows it, but
There
right
might-
now,
yeah, there might be,
everybody
but
wants to
yeah,
own that
everybody wants-
technology
yeah.
because you can only get it from us. So that may be part of the plan, you know what I mean, as it ties out, where we go from here. And as far as point of sale, we've had past discussions with regards to Golf Now, with their new system being updated and the new fee structure that they're going to have. And I've checked 4UP, Golf Pay, I've looked at Golf Profit, and then most recently I took a road trip out to Dennis Highlands. I sat with them for about 2 hours, walking through the system and the reporting, and I went over to Old Barnstable. I sat with them for a couple hours going through their system. They use a combination of Golf Profit and Chelsea, but only because they're familiar with Golf Profit and have used it for so long. They use Chelsea for other features. But Chelsea is an all-inclusive POS system, very detail-oriented on its reporting, because that was one of my main concerns with having the turnover that we've had in the town hall, and mostly your clerk level are the people that are doing the processing. I have to be able to present the same information in a similar format so that they can just take that piece of paper and do what they need to do with it, and without any confusion or misinterpretation of numbers. So that system seems to be very report-oriented. It doesn't have the bells and whistles that Golf Now has with a template for sending out emails and newsletters and updating your customers and tea time specials that you can plug in. But you can create that in-house and market it as such, but you would have to use a third party for emails and of the sort, so to inform your customers. So, depending on how negotiations go with Mr. Kelly and Golf Now, and that is probably where I would lean to right now. I still have a few more questions with them that I need answered, but out of everything that I've looked at, Old Barnstable is a muni course. They've been using it for both their courses for over 20 years. They love it. And Dennis Highlands has used it for a similar format for a lot of years, but they're reluctant to change from Golf Profit because they started with that initially. And the person that's there is got probably 3 or 4 more years before they retire, and then they'll probably just switch over to Chelsea. I have to find out how it correlates with how it communicates with credit card vendors. because a lot of these systems have limitations as to who they use as vendors, and the town usually uses the bank and their credit card vendor, their list of vendors, so I have to find out some more specifics. And we have a gift card program, and Chelsea has a gift card program. You can still run it outside of the system, or you can run it, you have to create a new system and run it, and at that instance, you have a little bit of difficulty with people redeeming current gift cards, unless maybe you redeem them, figure out a way to redeem them and transfer them to a new card, but there was some issues to work through. So doing this mid-season would be a challenge. It's not, I mean, there would be some bumps along the way in figuring it out. I'm sure we could get there, but just understand it's not gonna be plug and play. You open up, and now you're using a new system, and you switched over in the middle of summer. It's gonna be running just as smooth. So just letting you know in advance of, if that decision takes place, it's gonna be a work in progress.
So what's the schedule?
So Golf Now puts a scare tactic on you that Microsoft is changing their software, which impacts the way that their system and service communicate. So it's not Golf Now's technology, it's the fact that Microsoft is changing their technology. And that they will cover till the end of June, and they will be supporting their software. However, if Microsoft does some backdoor changes to their system that impacts Golf Now, they won't have support for their software. So if you went dead, they're not sure that they would be able to get you up and running immediately. So they claim. So she said she has a handful of courses that aren't changing. They're gonna run it. She has a handful of courses that are sticking with it, just based on the scare tactic of the sales pitch. You would have to come to a decision as to really where we want to go with this.
And so what's the schedule for making these decisions?
The schedule would be what you guys decide that you would want to do, and then we would run with it and implement it.
So when will that proposal come before us?
Well, I'm communicating it to you now to give you some background information as far as what quotes and stuff like
So
that.
what's the schedule? When do you think?
Well, I just gave you the recommendation. If you guys made the decision to do it while the season is in play, it probably won't be a smooth transition, and we can work through it. But there are going to be some hiccups.
Transition to what?
You would have to if you were changing from Golf Now
Yep.
and going to Chelsea, you're going to change systems mid-season, and that is going to incur a work in progress learning curve for everybody.
Right, so
Whether it's reporting, numbers reported, history, the stuff that you're used to seeing with item-specific, detail-oriented sales, all this has to be set up prior to going live, and then when you flip the switch, you would still have to work through some glitches that are probably going to occur, as you would with any change in technology.
So what's the schedule?
Well, I mean, the other half of that was, you mentioned potential negotiations with Jamie and Golf Now, right? So I mean, I guess we kind of need to know where that's
So what's the
headed.
schedule?
Expense.
And, right, and what's the status of that? And is Golf Now willing, offered, do we even know any potential option other than the first option that they put out there? Which was that?
That all depends on negotiations. They said they were willing to negotiate, and I'm not authorized to do any negotiations. I'm basically gathering information and feeding it to you guys to see what you guys want to do.
No,
I think,
discussed that with him.
Right, I think, I'll say two things. One, right, I mean, 'cause Jamie told me that you'd be the one to do any negotiating.
He sent out a
So-
memo to everybody in the town that no one is allowed to
Right.
discuss with any
We
vendors,
just
any
need to
contracts.
get this pushed along, because
Yeah,
we don't wanna be at a
don't
point where
we
we're
need
shut
you
off.
to help expedite scheduling of Jamie and with whomever to get together? set a
Yes,
date.
depending on what you guys want to decide to do and moving forward with, I communicated that negotiations will have to take place between Golf Now and Jamie. So we're kind of reviewing what the status quo is with Golf Now, what their time frame is as to when this transition from Microsoft is taking place, which I just informed you, and then the research that I just gathered with the potential softwares that your options were, which I started last season and clearly stated that the 4UP and Golf Pay were not options. But having since become aware of Chelsea and speaking with the people that have used it, who have run successful municipal golf courses on Cape Cod, 2 golf courses each, that would be the front runner if you were going to make a change. Now, as far as a finalized schedule, I don't think you've come to that pass yet.
I'm guessing, right, money aside, we'd probably rather just stay with what we have, but it's getting to the point where,
Unaffordable.
right, or are they willing to negotiate anything with Jamie to kind of down to a price where, it's not much difference or whatever, so we need to somehow figure out where that is between Golf Now and Jamie,
Mm-hmm.
so.
And what is Golf Now willing to
Right,
sacrifice?
is there
And
anything-
how good are Jamie's negotiation skills to get him as close to where we're at or less?
Right, or-
With what I've spoken to with other software companies, part of their pay structure, pay features, is they do a split on the trade, and it's not just they take it all and walk away with it. It's 50-50. If we trade the time, we'll give you your X amount for a fee, and the trade time is half yours and half ours, or 75% yours and 25% ours. But that takes place in the other office.
Right,
It's
so
above
I'm
my pay grade.
not sure how we make that get to be pushed forward.
So that's it. What's the schedule?
Well, if I was handling it, I would have brought them in already and spoke to them and went with a hard line, see where they fell, and weighed out my options.
Why
and-
don't you schedule a meeting with Jamie and explain what you're trying to explain to us?
Sure,
This is what I want to do and see what the direction is.
fine.
Because you gotta put in the fact that he's working on
A lot of things.
FY '24 budget.
Absolutely.
All this other stuff.
Yeah, no, he told me and Nick to work on it, and I've been in speaking with Nick, and up until now, I didn't have a front runner, but I did communicate with him that I did come across a possible option, if negotiations didn't go well, that would probably satisfy the needs of the town with a little less, flair to the system. As that was their sales pitch to me. You can't expect to drive a Ferrari for a Volkswagen price, which was a very weak sales pitch.
But is this system compatible with that system?
So compatible in the sense that you can load your inventory into it, and I think you can load your database into it, but it does not keep your sales history. So you lose your sales history that you previously had. But you can get a hard drive of that database, but I'm not too sure how you would, you'd have to pull it out and maybe put it in an Excel
I thought
spreadsheet.
that's what you guys, you were working with the gentleman up there.
The two systems are not identically compatible where you can pull that information and plug it right into the new system. Softwares have their whole prior.
Because Jamie was in line or considering something that would be compatible with our system here, that would work with the system.
Well, I think you can export information into the system. That's an option, but I don't think you, doesn't directly,
Right.
when in speaking with Old Barnstable and Dennis, they still print the nightly reports and they give them to the town, and the town inputs them. It's not an automated feed.
Oh, that's a decision they're gonna make. I guess we'll be for one of our meetings, we have to bring that up.
But
To expedite that.
So definitely if you can, though, Dana, try and like meet with Jamie, just express the time constraint we're potentially running up against, and it's gonna go away.
Well,
at June 30th,
and I just
so.
wanted to clarify too, when we left last year, they said it was August.
Yeah.
So I told you guys in the fall, and so we came in the spring, and she's like, now she's giving me the high pressure sales. She's like, I'm going through my list, and you guys haven't signed on yet. What's going on? You know, you got to be doing this by June. I'm like, listen, you told me when we closed for the season that this wasn't transpiring until the end of the season next season, and we want to operate pretty much the whole season on the system. So now she's probably getting pressure from her supervisor that wants to look at her sales number. Where are your numbers at? How come they're not at last year's numbers? Because I have X amount of courses that haven't signed up yet.
Unless there's a glitch with Microsoft and the whole thing explodes.
Well, but what I
Implodes.
Yeah.
yeah, that could happen now though with it. So who knows?
Okay.
That's exciting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Let's move on.
On the maintenance, I know we've talked about a lot of this already, but you've got other
Yeah.
things on your list here.
Yeah, so we'll be able to go through most of this pretty quick. Just wanted to bring to everybody's attention our greens aerating schedules. We're going to look to do a venting aeration, which is basically a solid tine. It's called a bayonet tine, so it makes a slit. It doesn't necessarily make a hole. To open up the surface, get us a little oxygen air exchange, and so on. Probably going to look at that for the week of April 9th if we can fit it in. Our actual core aeration top dressing will be May 8th and 9th this year. Salary ranges and current staff, we already discussed that, so we can go through past that. I did want to bring up, I've been researching getting some, for lack of a better word, nicer signage to use on our golf course instead of our handwritten signs or something that we painted up. I've been speaking with the people at Presslet Golf, and we've been buying products from them for quite some time now. They provide the recycled plastic materials. In the email that I sent out to you all, it had a mock-up of what the sign would look like. One would be posted at the first hole and one would be posted at the 10th hole. And it basically what the sign does is discusses course rules for the day. And you can get different, it has 4 slots that the actual signs slide into. So not only could you put notification for pesticide applications or cart path only or 90-degree rule, but if you had something that we needed to communicate to golfers, you could make up whatever you want on those particular signs that can slide in the slots, or those particular printouts that can slide into those different slots. And the other thing along with that was our water cooler stations were made out of wood several years ago. We've repaired them and we've also stained them a number of times, and we're getting to the point now where they're really not in good enough shape to keep on repairing. So what we experimented with last year was making one water cooler out of Trex, and the nice thing about that, it's a little heavy, which is good because it doesn't blow over, but the nice thing about it is it's not going to break down. It doesn't need to be stained and so on. We bring it in, we power wash it, and it's good to go. So these being able to build additional ones out of that material will save us in the long run. Of course, you're going to have an initial cost up front. That's why I listed that dollar amount. was $6,000. So that would cover the signs plus materials to start building, I believe, 3 or 4 of the water cooler houses. We wouldn't have to get it all at one time, but it's the signage I'd like to be able to get and be able to put that into place. Probably May, because it's going to take some time for them to make the signs. It's a 2-phase process, and they put the 2 different types of plastic together. So when you route it out, you have the green plastic, but you also have the white letters or different colored letters in it. And I think if everybody had a chance to see those particular proofs, and at the bottom of the sign, they'll put our club emblem, which we created several years ago when we bought a timing sign for the first tee.
Yeah, the mock-up looked nice.
Yeah. It's a nice sign. I mean, they're expensive up front, but they're going to last quite a long time. They're all recycled plastic. I mean, I have signs that we use on some of the fairways that I bought 15 years ago that we're still using. We just bring them in the winter, clean them up, then we're ready to go. So I just wanted to bring that to our attention. I'd like to be able to give the sign folks a go-ahead so we can start, so they can start putting those signs together. I told them I got the mock-up, and I said I'd have to get back in touch with them. So like I said, I mean, if we were to, Kevin and I sat down, we measured out the water coolers. He did the research and got the numbers for the Trex material, and we figured by combining what we could make now with the signs, that the total amount would be about $6,000 in expense.
I think we should move forward with
We gotta have those stands in water on the course. So I don't think we got much alternative.
I'll make that motion, spend the $6,000.
Second.
We got a motion and a second to go ahead with this. All in favor? I think it'll look nicer too, so.
Yeah, it'll be something that the golfers recognize is there, and it's kind of like a go-to spot, whereas instead of haphazardly putting handwritten signs in
Right.
places, because we drew on the back of COVID signs last year because we didn't have anything else. Cart path repair, we already discussed.
Excuse me, Steve,
Excuse me?
any idea on benches?
Benches, we've been looking at replacing the benches. The only problem, we can't use, I haven't found a sturdy enough recycled material to make the benches out of ourselves. You can buy them from the same company, but they're upwards of $700-800 a bench. They're pretty expensive. The problem with the Trex and other materials is because of the width of the bench, it's not made to have that lack of support in the middle.
All right.
So it sags and stuff.
Thanks.
So, I mean, we could make smaller benches, but then that wouldn't fit our purpose, I don't think. But we'll continue to look at that and see if we can come up with another material that would or a composite that might work. We already talked about the tree work, and we talked about the fairway mower. The only other thing under the equipment that I would mention is that our John Deere sprayer has been returned. It looks great. It's ready to go. We're going to calibrate it next week just to make sure it's spraying out the volumes that we want, and then we'll be ready for use.
Did you get a bill yet?
Excuse me?
Did you get a bill yet?
Yes. Well, the bill came. The basement bill is in 2 spots because in order. Finch, our John Deere distributor, didn't put the doesn't do the actual work. It goes to John Deere themselves. I I can pull up the synopsis here. And I can tell you exactly how much we spent on that. Where's budget? Here it is. Okay, so under that particular item for the sprayer, that was in our first request. There are two bills that total, we budgeted $26,500. The expense for the reconditioning of the sprayer was, total expense was $24,389.05. Those are the two bills. One was, actually, the first item was a purchase order, which was required by John Deere to move forward. So we attained that from the town hall. That was for $21,511.80. Then the second invoice, which I'll be turning in next week or tomorrow if I can get to it, was for $2,877.25. And that was incurred for some additional work that we had to do on that piece of machinery, which was a brake cable and some work on the brake pads and other parts of the machine. So overall, the over and under on that particular project was $2,110.95 below the budget.
So what was the total?
For the total, well, our initial request for article expenditure was $46,130. All told, we spent $46,313.92. So we had $183.92. A lot of that, that was basically attributed to the field controllers coming in more expensive than they were initially quoted, because by the time they got delivered, the price went up. But
The meeting was canceled? I didn't get no
That's
notice.
good. So basically right what we thought it was gonna be.
yeah, basically just about where we thought it was going to be. So the only other two things under equipment I wanted to mention is the 3400 approach and T-mower is tentatively scheduled for delivery in August of this year. And we do have two other units, which are Toro 3320 greens mowers, and they're scheduled for the spring of 2024, although I haven't been able to acquire a particular month yet. And then just some updates on our projects. As far as the bunkering on the second hole is concerned, the bunkers, the sand trap has been shaped out, and materials have been put in. We're going to we have some finish shaping to do and some grading, along with sodding in the addition of sand, and then we'll be in good shape. I hope to be able to get sod this first or second week of April.
This is the planning board? No. This is something different?
The irrigation additions on the fourth and the fifth hole are complete and ready for use. We will be seeding those disturbed areas once the weather warms. I may look at hydro seeding those areas. That depends on how we go into the season. But all our irrigation additions are in place. We'll be charging up the irrigation system the 12th of April, and then we'll be able to test those and make sure those are all working properly. And as I mentioned, our field controllers upgrades for number 15 and number 16 are complete. And those units are out there in the field and functioning properly. We'll be able to run through those and make sure all the wiring is intact once we get water into the system, because then that way we'll make sure that what stations are supposed to come on when called upon are the ones that actually come on. Now, I had a question here about the 14th and 15th pond embankments. At the end of the year last year, we had a redone quote from Conoco about, for wetland delineation work and land surveying work. If we're going to go forward with any work out there on those 2 pond embankments and in that area, we're going to have to do delineation and surveying work at some point. It would behoove us to do it in the spring of this year if we wanted to do work next fall, because the ponds have to be drawn down, so on and so forth. So I didn't know where we stood on that, where we wanted to go with that. I received an email from Mr. Toohill just requesting if what we're going to do, or if there's any continued interest and so on. So I told him I would ask and find out where we intend to go. Now, I know he gave a proposal that was thorough, and although that doesn't mean that portions of the proposal can't be done and not having to accept the entire one, so. Do we have any?
My recollection was that you were gonna meet with Dan.
I did meet with Dan, and to be quite honest with you, Dan looked back at me and said, "I'm not quite sure what you're talking about." He said, I don't really have a wetlands specialist on hand. He said there's a fella in Wareham that he will call because his brother works in Wareham, and this is, he said if I have any questions, but there really isn't anybody that he brings out on site to do evaluations. So he wasn't quite sure who this person was that was being alluded to, but he said there was somebody that his brother was familiar with through his work in Wareham, that he talked with occasionally if he had questions about delineations and other things. And that's as far as our conversation went on that particular topic. So again, I mean, you can put, I think, if we wanted to, I mean, we could do something similar in the RFP format. I could talk with our conservation agent here in town,
Right.
and get some recommendations from him about who also does this, and then possibly see if we could get some connections or people to come out and look at it that way.
Steve, that was a man-made pond, wasn't it?
Right.
Yes,
Yeah,
they're
man-made.
both man-made ponds, yes.
So you still have to have.
Yes, but
Well,
after a certain time, they are considered
Natural.
wetland resources. And you have to go through, and all of the, as Mr. Toohill explained here in the meeting, as well as out on site, is that the steps that they're recommending, they're not steps that, okay, this man here is going to recommend you do these, and this man here is going to recommend that you do something else. These are all steps that have to be followed in the sequence as per Massachusetts state law, as well as federal law when it comes to the Army Corps of Engineers. So anybody who undertakes the project, if they're going to do it within legal bounds, has to follow all of the steps outlined in that same proposal. So they should be giving you a proposal back that gives you all of that information. And as we heard earlier this evening, we're actually looking at contacting somebody through possibly through the National Golf Foundation, who originally worked on the original draft of this property. This gentleman was involved in the original draft of the property as far as the wetlands are concerned, but he's also currently working with our town conservation department in terms of issues relating to P.J. Keating, I believe. So, but I will talk with Pat and see if he has any recommendations as far as other companies who do delineation and surveying work, and see if they would be willing to come out and give us a similar similar proposal, or at least list of costs associated with what we're trying to get done.
Because when they issued the final permit, or whatever you call it, they said there was no ongoing maintenance or update for procedures for maintaining the wetland area, i.e. the pond.
Yeah,
And so maybe you could have a conversation with Pat regarding what should we be doing with, with the pond area. That we don't want to disturb the pond, we just want to reinforce the land next to the pond.
well, the other thing that we're going to have, that I believe we're going to have to consider, especially for the pond adjacent to the 15th hole, is you're going to have to come up with a pond management plan. And the reason I say that is because the aquatic weeds are starting to significantly encroach on the edge of that pond, and you're losing water volume capability because of that. So we have to,
That
again,
would be an ongoing maintenance type thing.
Yes, you're gonna
They
have-
said there was nothing issued
yeah.
to that regard, so.
No, there is no maintenance plan moving forward for
Right.
for either of the ponds.
For the last 20 years, right?
Correct. For even longer than that. I mean, once,
So we need to decide, how do we clean that up, I guess?
Well, I think our guy here should give
Some direction.
some direction.
there's also, if I'm not mistaken, I also believe that the town is working with I saw it on one of the other committee agendas, is working with a company that does pond maintenance. I can't remember the name of the company off the top of my head. I get emails from them all the time. I've actually contacted them about erosion control once, several months ago, but I'm pretty
It
sure.
was for the ponds in Lake Street.
Yeah. Yeah, because I remember seeing it, it was the same company that I contacted about in pond embankments, so I'm gonna reach out to them and contact them as well. And then the last thing I have here, first before last thing, I just want to make sure we're all in agreement that we'll be using the 15th tee, and we're going to put the black and blue markers back on the furthest tee, the big one.
Yep.
And we're going to put the white markers up on the forward tee. So okay, so that's just long, so we can do that tomorrow.
Well, we agreed to.
We agreed to that.
Yeah.
And,
The 15th
Man, I
is
can't
going to be
put 'em up.
back to the original condition.
yeah, with the exception that we're not going to be using what was the traditional white tee. We're going to have the white tee blocks up on the forward tee. But we will be teeing off from standard tees. We won't be
Original.
teeing- Yeah.
Okay.
So we're not gonna use the T that the white bar, the white T's what before?
Right.
Correct, yeah.
Wanna eliminate that one?
Well, we're not gonna eliminate it, we're just not gonna be using it temporarily.
For
so.
now, yeah.
But now,
They sold that property next to the course, didn't they?
I don't know, I had not
Right,
heard that.
Somebody was telling me that they sold the property that next to the.
I heard the same thing.
And I just wanted to let everybody know that the isolation valves for the second and fifth hole have been installed and they're ready for use. It took a while to get the bloody valves to come in, but they finally came in. The one little glitch that we had with that is whoever created our as-built irrigation map indicated on the map that the pipe leading to the fifth hole was a 4-inch pipe. Well, when we dug the hole, it's a 3-inch pipe. So we had to reorder a valve, which delayed the installation by a day or two and influenced the cost somewhat because, of course, the price of things went up. But those valves are in and they're ready to be used. And our mini splits for the break room have been installed and doing a great job. We're able to cut back on the gas use. The only thing we haven't done yet is to remove the older heating units. When we have a minute, we're going to see if, I want to make sure how, I know how we're supposed to cap off the gas access to those before I go up there and start doing anything, but those have been shut off. And the one other thing that I forgot to put down here is that the town is doing their fiber optics installations, and the fiber optics cable has been run down and bought into our, my office, and I guess it's supposed to run the, not only, hook up to the point of the payroll system, as well as give us the opportunity to get rid of Comcast. Well, not get rid of Comcast, but look at other opportunities for our, phone and internet service. And we should be able, once that fiber optics is put in, we should be able to be connected to the rest of the town. So right now, we're not on the town phone system. We're, Dana's phone and my phone, you can't punch in a number when you call. Like right now, if you call town hall, you can punch in a number and go to a specific department. You can't do that for the golf course. Once this is hooked up, you'll be able to do that as well. So, but the cable's there and the boxes are in now. Just when the town decides they're going to hook everything up. And that's it.
Next meeting.
Committee meeting minutes is on?
Yeah, I'd like to table that till we have a full committee.
Sure. All right, so then we want to look at the next meeting.
John is back April 7th, he said.
So there's that. It's 13, 20, and 27. I'll be away on the 20th. Oh, I guess no. No, I'll be away on the 13th. So that leaves 20 and 27 for Thursdays if we wanted to in April.
So which one's one?
20's good.
And 20, that's school vacation week, so I could even do a little bit earlier that day if we wanted to. Not, could be tremendously, but we could do, say, 4 instead of 4:30.
4's good.
4 o'clock?
Yep, so
So
4 o'clock on the
that's-
20th.
Thursday, 20th of April
Yep.
at 4 o'clock.
20th,
Yep, April 20th.
at 4 o'clock.
4 o'clock. Alright, so just need a motion to adjourn, I guess.
We'll move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Night, thank you.